Hello, my name is Paul Quinney, and this is the Flames Faceoff, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. This is a weekly show where we bring together some of our best writers in the Calgary writing pool, and we discuss all things Flames. Now, to make sure you don't miss an episode, you can like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Just hit that little red button on the bottom right of your screen. And be sure to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And make sure you check out some of the great hockey content that we have on thehockeywriters.com. So with that, let's get going. I'd like to introduce the panel today. We have Mr. Colton Pankiw. Colton, how are things?
Good, thanks. Good to be back after missing last week.
Yeah, you came back all in one piece. You didn't break anything out there?
No, it was all good. Yeah.
All right, great. Hey, Greg, how are you doing?
To be honest, I'm a little bit tired and I have a hot take for you guys. Let's get rid of daylight savings time. What's the point? I just lost an hour of sleep and there's no reason for it. So if I'm a little bit off today, you know why? Because I'm dragging my heels. Sorry.
All right, we'll see if some of the viewers we can get them into a petition or something. And we have Brett Krauss. Brett, how are you?
Doing well today. About the same feelings as Greg when I woke up and it was, already noon out here. So that was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get at it. So the Flames took all 4 points in the mini series with the Canadiens, and it looked like the Flames responded very well to their new coach, Darryl Sutter. And I guess as we speak, no one's letting their hair on fire out there in Calgary anymore. And basically everything's as it should be in Flames land. So what's your take on how things went this week against the Canadiens and what it could mean for the future? Greg, what are your thoughts?
One of the things I'm taking away from these two games is Darryl Sutter rolling four lines. I looked at some of the playing time from that game from Saturday, and I noticed that Derek Ryan had over 14 minutes and Johnny Gaudreau had just over 16 minutes. Like that is pretty even Steven when you consider, the playing time. And one of the things I was reading about Darryl Sutter before he came here was his teams are more like a democracy. He's kind of giving everyone kind of a chance to prove themselves. And if he's rolling four lines like this and everyone's accountable, I can see this continuing. So I was actually pretty pleased to see the Flames take all four of those points, because could you imagine if they had lost those two games, they'd be 10 points out. And I think we would be basically writing them off right now, because 10 points is a pretty steep hill to climb. 2 points out after these two games. I don't really know if it could have gone much better. At times it was boring Sutter style hockey, but wins are wins. So I was pretty happy to see that. So I don't know about you guys, but I was pretty impressed with the Flames over these past two games.
Yeah. Brett, what are you making of it? How much do we read into these two wins? Montreal's not that great a team, frankly.
Yeah, good start. It's the start you want to have in Sutter era 2.0 here. And I think for me, just watching those games, it was just visually more appealing watching the pace of play. And definitely, sometimes can be a little boring, but it doesn't really matter. But when you're winning hockey games, it's the way they wanted to start anyway.
Yeah. Colton, Colton, what's your take?
Yeah, same thing. I liked what Greg said about accountability. I think that's a thing that was appearing to maybe lack before under Ward, and I think something that Sutter's going to really bring to the organization. And I think lots of times, too, when you see a coaching change, you really see, especially through the first few weeks, guys really play to the top of their game, just trying to make great impressions. And I think so far, so good. Obviously, I think these two last games against Montreal were two of the better games I've seen them play this year.
Yeah. No, I noticed that in some of the post-game press conferences and some of the things the guys are saying in the media, that there's frankly an enthusiasm for Sutter, and they think they're on a winning journey, and they appear at this point all committed. Greg, you mentioned the the rolling all four lines, and Thursday night, the fourth line actually showed up. They made an appearance. I don't recall them being that visible up to now. What do you think happened? What do you think explains that?
Well, it's a lot of it has to do with Derek Ryan coming back, and I'm actually currently writing my mid-season report card, and when writing about Derek Ryan, I was kind of surprised at the start of the season. He really didn't show up. Like, he's been pretty consistent, kind of a 30 to 35 point guy the last several seasons. But at the start of the year, he was kind of invisible, and so was the fourth line. And then he got hurt, 10 games out with a fractured finger, and now he's back. And he's been probably one of the better players on the Flames squad in the last few games. And that fourth line, I think he's driving it. And somehow he's gotten production out of Josh Levo, who's kind of been a punching bag for a lot of people this season. Excuse me. He's been, he was kind of hired for some depth scoring and to play up and down the lineup, and he's been kind of a disappointment. But Levo has been showing up, and Brian has been driving that line, and Sam Bennett, of all people, who has been kind of a distraction, and he's been a healthy scratch. He's been everything this season, and he seems to fit in quite well with those two guys. So if they can really get that fourth line going, and if they can roll them just like any other line, I think that's going to be really beneficial. And but yeah, I think Derek Ryan, he's the straw that stirs the drink of that line. So I'm looking for him to show some leadership and some consistency for that fourth unit for sure.
Yeah. Well, I see Sutter last night in the press conference said, he's the type of center that can play anywhere. He's very impressed with him. Brett, what's your take on the fourth line? And in particular, will we see that fourth line as it's presently constituted stay the same?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see that same fourth line going until it's time for maybe a shakeup. But I mean, they've had so many shakeups already this season on their lines. But yeah, I think Derek Ryan is quite an under the radar guy. He really boosts that line. And Josh Levo, I think, was to me just suffering from bad puck luck. I think he's defensively capable, and so I think he was basically just due for 2 goals there, because I think he was getting the opportunities at some points, and then playing with Derek Ryan again, I think really also helped, because you could just tell, like, even Sam Bennett looked good on that line. So I think Ryan just he elevates those bottom 6 guys and really brings the best out of them, I think.
Yeah. I don't know, Colton, in my illustrious hockey career, I was always a third line guy, and I always resented the label third line. But in the case of the Flames, we're still using that term fourth line. Can you even talk about a fourth line now under Sutter? It seems they're all, as Greg put it, they're democratically constituted, and it's expected that all lines are going to fire on all cylinders, and it's hard to distinguish. What's your take on that?
Yeah, like I said before, I think they're kind of still auditioning. Sutter's still getting to know a lot of these guys. So yeah, I think the fourth line is going to continue to get their opportunities, and I just hope, compared to the past coaching regime, that we can just see some consistency in these lines. I like that they've stayed together to this point, and I hope we see that at least for a little while still going forward.
Yeah. Switching gears a bit, that there's a lot been said of the Sutter's style of play, and everybody keeps talking about playing fast. What's your take on that, Greg? What exactly does that mean, playing fast? I mean, we all know it doesn't mean just going out there and skating fast, but
well, Sutter keeps talking about this game that's straight up and down the ice, like he's like up and down, like he wants to keep things moving straight ahead. And it's funny, I saw him being interviewed on Hockey Night in Canada when and they're saying, like, oh, are you building like an ornery team like you did in the 04 Cup run? And Sutter kind of pushed back from that. He was like saying he didn't consider, I don't think he likes that label of kind of being like ornery or kind of like, he kind of wants to be more of a speed kind of game. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing, more puck possession, and we're seeing a forecheck that's really aggressive. And we're just, and so far the stats have been proving it out. Like they, in that first game against Montreal, they outshot them 2-1, and they had zone time was huge advantage for the Flames. And he's been delivering on that kind of that back and forth, straight ahead game, that fast game. And so far so good. And I've been happy to see it. And I agree with him. Like you don't have to have this ornery edge, to be hard to play against. You just need to kind of work hard. And so far the Flames have been doing just that.
Mm-hmm. Brett, on playing fast, as they put it, do you think other teams are going to figure that out?
Most teams each night are going to try and figure out your game plan. I think it's just more so that's the style they're probably going to play, and it's just managing it in game and how they, attack their opponent's weaknesses. But yeah, I think I like already 2 games of him behind the bench. It just looks faster. Like they seem to challenge a lot more, especially in the D zone, kind of coming through the neutral zone. They'll challenge the puck carrier a lot quicker. I think they were more so letting guys in a little too easy across the blue line, and now they're kind of pressuring that puck all the time. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, that's just what part of it looks faster for me is just because they're always constantly pressuring the puck carrier when they don't have it. And they're passing it a lot, it seems, and stretch passes, D-to-D passes, and out of the zone. So it's just a few things that make it look quite a bit faster.
Yeah, there's more structure in the play. I think Monahan was saying in the presser last night, as soon as the puck gets on his stick, he knows where it's going, and that's usually behind the Montreal D. Colton, any thoughts, any observations on the so-called Sutter style of play?
Yeah, it just seems like a lot quicker puck movement. I think the other thing too about playing faster is a lot of dump and chase hockey. So it kind of gets rid of, I guess, at times what can be like when you were saying that it's a bit less appeasing or maybe not as exciting at times. I think lots of times the highlight reel plays or just certain plays in the neutral zone that can lead to turnovers, that's really been eliminated. It's really kind of more old school like Sutter is, dump and chase and just grind teams down.
Yeah. Well, I think we saw that on Monahan's first goal. Ritchie went in, was banging and crashing behind the net, and sure enough, the Canadiens D coughed it up, and then the next thing you know, he's got it on Monahan's stick for the goal. Speaking of dump and chase, what are your thoughts on Gaudreau? How do you think he's going to fare with that style of play?
I think he'll be okay. I think like you'd said, or I'm not sure if it's been brought up, but they have had older school coaches before. Obviously, Bob Hartley was there, and I don't think it affected him too much. Like obviously, Sutter kind of likes the more. Like I think a player like Sam Bennett or guys like that are kind of always going to be his favorite. But every team needs their skill guys, and I don't think Gaudreau is going to be too negatively impacted by this.
Yeah. Greg, what are your thoughts on Gaudreau?
Well, it's The Athletic did an interesting story on, like, they did a deep dive into like Sutter's entire coaching career and how like skilled players fared under Sutter's coaching style. And they went back all the way to his coaching days in Chicago Blackhawks, and they profiled like guys even like Jeremy Roenick, and they went through the years, and there were some exceptions, but for the most part, Sutter has actually made the kind of the offensively gifted guys get better and have better seasons under his tenure. So I really don't think we have to worry too much about Johnny. I know that sometimes people have maybe complained a bit about his defensive work ethic and stuff like that, and I don't think we're going to see him or Monahan, some of these guys, become these incredible two-way players, but I do think they're going to be more responsible. But I do think this style of play and the structure and just more puck possession is going to lead to more chances. So I think Johnny's going to be A-okay under Sutter. And so far hasn't produced yet, but I think it was a good sign that Monahan did. And I think as Johnny and Monty go, they kind of go together, all these years of playing with each other. If one of them is going, the other one's going. So maybe that'll translate. So I'm hoping.
What do you think, Brett? Do you think these demands to trade Johnny are going to die down under Sutter?
Yeah, I've been on team do not trade Gaudreau at whatsoever because he's basically been one of our best players of all time. But yeah, like last night, Juuso Valimaki, rookie defenseman, hits Gaudreau with a beautiful stretch pass right up the middle. So I think there's still going to be plays like that where you see the skill guys make those skilled plays. But I think, like Sutter said in his original press conference was that, he identifies a role for every guy, and he most likely knows that Johnny Gaudreau can't be banging and crashing in the corners. So he'll find a way to work around that and, to really bring out the best in Johnny, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Johnny, I had to give him full marks. He could have won an Academy Award last night trying to sell that kick in goal. But, hey, full marks. You had to do it, Johnny.
Got to do what you got to do.
That's right. That's right. It's all about the acting in the league sometimes. What are you guys thinking about? I was listening to Monahan in the post-game conference, and he seemed to really like Ritchie on their line. Do you think he's going to be there to stay? What are your thoughts, Colton?
If you had asked me before the season had started, I'd say I would have kind of laughed at that. But I don't know. It hasn't looked bad so far. If it's a long-term solution, I can't really see it being, but ride it out as long as it works. And who knows, maybe they'll prove me wrong, and maybe it will be a thing that'll work for the remainder of the season.
Yeah. Greg, are you liking Ritchie on that Johnny and Monty show?
Yeah. If I'm thinking back on who's been on that line, we've had everybody, Dominic Simone and Levo and Mangiapane and Sam Bennett. We've had like everybody auditioning on that line, and so why not? If it's working, I think you ride it as long as it does work. And I've been kind of reading about this whole issue with trying to get someone to play with Johnny and Monty. And the thing is, you really don't need like this winger to make them better. I think Johnny and Monty they're the skilled players. Like you should be able to put almost anybody on that line with them, and Johnny and Monty should make that person better. It shouldn't be the other way around. We shouldn't be counting on this mystery winger to try and spark Johnny and Monty. They're the guys who are leading this team, offensively, and they should be at least. So I think whoever plays with them has to just be kind of capable. And I think with Brett Ritchie being kind of banging and crashing, I think that's maybe what they need right now to try and create some more room out there. But as long as it's working, let's just see how it goes. But I think I'm with Colton. I don't know if this is the long-term solution. I don't think he'll be playing in 2 weeks from now. Who knows? But let's find out. Let's find out.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on his play, right? A lot of guys think it's the coach that decides how much ice time they get, when in fact they decide, and that depends on their play. Brad, are you liking Ritchie on that line?
For now, I think so. I'll join the guys here and say it's definitely not a long-term solution. But I also think that's the type of player I think that line could use. I'd like to see them maybe get a more skilled Brett Ritchie type of player. But yeah, basically just Monahan's first goal last night. It probably worked exactly to execution, and Ritchie went behind the net and separated the man from the puck, and Monahan just walked right out and scored. So I think for now it'll work because he skates well. I haven't really taken a look at kind of how good his hands are, but I think it'll work for now. It's just I think there definitely is long term. They need to find somebody who could be there for more than a couple games at a time.
Right. Oh, he's a big boy. Switching gears a little bit to the defense. I like Kylington's play last night. He was over 16 minutes, and when you look at his shots for against differential, it was a plus 11. Me personally, I like him a lot better than Nesterov. What do you think, Greg? Is he there to stay?
I was actually I had penciled him in to be in that third pairing before the season started. They had signed him in the off season, and I thought he was coming along, nicely. And then he kind of fell by the wayside, and he was on the taxi squad, and he was kind of shuffled into the background. And I was kind of wondering when they were going to bring him out. And he's played a few games now, and he has looked pretty good out there. Like this is not a complete rookie. Like he's had a fair amount of NHL games under his belt now. So no, I've been pretty impressed with him, and like Nesterov has been pretty solid time, but he's kind of like not really noticeable out there, which sometimes is a good thing for a defenseman. But Kylington, I think has more offensive upside, and he might be a better match with his third pairing defenseman there, and on that third pairing. So I think I'd leave him in there if I was Sutter, and I think Sutter is going to try and put his stamp on this team more, and that could be one of the things that he does is keep Kylington up.
Colton, what are your thoughts on the D-core and Kylington there to stay, or will we see him going back and forth?
Yeah, I'm with Greg. Before the season, I thought that he was pretty well penciled into that third pairing. I thought he was going to be on there. I think he's played 3 or 4 games so far this season. He's played pretty well from what I've noticed. I think it's nice to have that depth on the side. I don't think he's going to stay in every game. I think they'll still kind of switch around if it's Nesterov coming in or who have you. But yeah, I think he's looked pretty well or pretty good in these in these few games. And I think too, when Greg was mentioning offensive upside, just upside in general too, I think he's 23 years old or so. So he's still got some room to grow as a player. So I do think if they can get him in the lineup more, that'd be ideal.
Yeah. Brett, on your thoughts on Nesterov versus Kylington?
I personally probably would go Kylington over Nesterov, but Nesterov's been in the NHL before, Tampa Bay, and played a few seasons in the KHL, so I think he's fine on the third pairing. But I think Kylington still has a lot of potential to grow as a defenseman. I really like his skating ability. But the other thing I was looking at too was I was using Cap Friendly's Seattle expansion draft tool the other day, and it says Kylington has 2 games remaining before he becomes eligible for the expansion draft. And so I'm kind of wondering, because they already have quite a few guys they're going to be working to protect, and so I wonder if they kind of thought that it's a shortened 50 game or 56 game season. Maybe just get lots of practice time in, and then, Nesterov may have been that signing just to fill that hole.
Right.
But with 30 games to go and he only needs 2 more to be eligible, I'm not sure. They might just be looking past that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So just looking ahead at the schedule, before anybody starts planning Stanley Cup parades, Montreal right now anyway is a bit of a sad sack team. So I guess, how much do you read into that 2-game sweep, especially now? Next week's going to be a tough week for the Flames. They're up against the godless Edmonton Oilers, and then they travel to Hogtown for a 2-game tilt there. What are you expecting to see next week when they're up against arguably two tougher teams? Not sure about the Leafs. They're only 500 now, but Colton, what are we going to see?
Well, I think the Oilers are certainly for the taking. I mean, if you take away their Senators games, they're 7-0 against the Senators this year, who pretty well everyone seems to be beating up on. I think they're 11-12 in games that aren't against them. I could be a bit off there. So I do think those games are certainly ones for the taking, but obviously they are a better team in my opinion than the Canadiens. In the 3 games, I think if they can walk away with 4 points, you're pretty happy, because it is a pretty tough week, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Greg, what are What are you going to see?
Well, Toronto's actually been sliding. Like they've been coming back down to earth, and you've noticed Winnipeg and Edmonton are closing in on the Leafs, so they're not the world beaters that they used to be. And I know that Matthews has been a bit of a slump, and now he's scoring again, but it doesn't really seem to matter. They've been slowing down. So I think everything's going to tighten up. And even the Oilers, they just lost to Vancouver, and like Vancouver is, below the Flames in the standing. So it's like, and you're talking about the Canadians not being world beaters or kind of not being that great of a team, but they were off a couple of big wins where they scored a lot of goals. So like, I find this whole division is really tightening up, and I think anybody can beat anybody. But I do agree that the Flames only getting 5 out of 10 points against Ottawa, that could really bite them. Like if the Oilers make the playoffs by a couple of points over the Flames, if that's going to be a huge difference. The fact that the Oilers just rolled over Ottawa, and we were like the only guys who couldn't seem to make hay with that squad. So, but all in all, I really don't know what to expect, because teams seem to be playing, hot and cold, up and down. Almost every team has been playing like this. I think probably the most consistent team in the last few weeks might be actually Winnipeg. So what do I expect against the Oilers and Toronto? If the Flames play like they did these last 2 games against Montreal, I think they could easily, be competitive and win those games, because right now they're playing the right way. That's kind of a cliche. You got to play the right way. Well, they're playing the right way, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, good point on the Flames' bad luck against the Ottawa Senators. That's bad when the Ottawa Senators steals your lunch money, and that's kind of what they've done. Brett, your thoughts? Am I going to be throwing things at my television set this week with or celebrating?
I mean, pretty positive after their 2 wins against Montreal. I think coming up against Edmonton here, really, they just got to sort out slowing down McDavid and Draisaitl, and put a couple past Mike Smith, who I'm still in disbelief is having the season that he's having at 39 or however old he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you can contain McDavid and Draisaitl and stay out of the penalty box, they can easily come away with 4 points against the Oilers. And against the Leafs, I mean, Frederik Andersen's been their guy, and he's hasn't posted above a 900 save percentage in the last 4 or 5 games. So they just got to score goals basically, and obviously contain Matthews, because he continues to roll. But like you said, that the Leafs are kind of coming back down to earth, so they got to cash in here. So I think you want to shoot for at least 1 against each at the very minimum.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched. I think the Leafs acquired a young goaltender, Finnish goaltender from Columbus this week. I don't know what that says about their goaltending situation, because you're right, Andersen has not been that good for them this year, and he's in previous years he just doesn't show up for the playoffs. So wanted to touch on some of the articles you guys have recently written. Colton, you were talking about Markstrom having kind of fallen back to earth, at least since he's been back from his injuries. He's been kind of middling if you look at his stats. I guess the question I have, and Flames fans generally have, is can he get his mojo back? Can you say some more about what you've seen in the last 2 games, and prior to that, the set against Ottawa? Where are we going?
Yeah, I think kind of the reason for the article was even before the injury. I think after he got off to that really hot start to start the season, then his play in February kind of dropped off a bit. And I wanted to make it clear in that too, not that he had been bad by any means. It just wasn't I guess he was their MVP without a doubt through January, and it just wasn't playing quite the same through February. I think these last couple of games against Montreal, again, he's looked pretty good, particularly last night. I don't think I think he will be able to turn that around. Like I said, they paid him as one of the highest paying goalies in the league. So you got to be able to bring that consistently. And I think he will. It was just a bit of a drop of play through February.
Yeah. Well, the only ask I have of Markstrom is, stay in your net. He's come out there and started to try to stick handle. And sometimes, there's been giveaways. I think the other game, I forget which game it was, when Valimaki had to come back and save a sure goal. But anyway, Greg, your thoughts on Markstrom?
I actually thought that he kind of, when his play dipped just before he went on injured reserve, I thought his play started to suffer, and I was wondering if maybe he was playing a bit injured, because remember he had that crazy on ice collision when he challenged the puck in that game,
Yeah.
And that was and he stayed in the game, but that kind of collision, I think, probably takes it out of you, and I think after those games that followed that, he didn't look right, and then all of a sudden he was missing 6 games in a row. And so I think he might have been injured before he actually went on injured reserve. And it's taken him a while to get back to where he was. And these last 2 games, he's been quite solid. Like he hasn't had to steal the games, but I think he's back on track. And that's a good thing, because Big Save Dave was kind of all over the map. He had shutouts. He was 2 minutes away from back-to-back shutouts, and yet he was still so inconsistent, and the reason why the Flames couldn't count on him to be a number 1 goalie. So I'm glad Markstrom, he seems to be back. And like I said, I'm currently writing my midterm report. I'm kind of struggling as to what grade to give Markstrom, because it was in the first part of the season, it was definitely like an A or A plus, and then he kind of dipped, and it would be. So I'm not really sure what I should give the big goalie now. Maybe a A minus or a B plus, but I think he's back to where he needs to be at least.
Yeah. Well, he had a hell of a stick save on Tanev last night. That could have evened things up for Montreal and turned kind of the tenor of the game around. Brett, you did a really nice piece on Dustin Wolf. And where do you stand on this kid? I mean, is he going to be the next goaltending messiah in Calgary? I mean, I'm thinking back to the number of Flames goaltending prospects that looked like they were going to be stellar, but flamed out, right? Brett Cron, one of the worst draft picks in NHL history, and then Leland Irving. What's going to happen with Wolf?
Well, after that explanation, I will say I remain cautious, because goalies are very weird and unpredictable, and some can break in the league at 22 and some not till they're 27. So he looked good, though. I watched the 3 games that he played in the American Hockey League. Bad start, 5 goals on 12 shots, but I think that was also just due to not having played in the WHL in almost a year, and getting 1 game at the World Juniors against Austria, I think, and he just did mop-up duty for Spencer Knight when they lost to the Russians. But I think he's got a shot. He's gunning for 3 or 4 goaltending records in the WHL. I think he currently has the best goals against average or save percentage, I believe, and second best goals against average in a career. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, veteran goalie there, Garrett Sparks, who's in Stockton, really commended him for his bounce back after that tough loss. So remains to be seen. I think he'll be full-time with Stockton next year, but I would say, if everything works out, we could see him backing up Jacob Markstrom here in 3 years maybe.
That long, huh? What do you think? What happens if we lose Big Save Dave next year? Do you think he could step in as a backup? That Wolf, that is.
I wouldn't say so. I think he needs some time at the pro game there, because just watching him, he's they call him short at 6 foot, but that's really not that short. But he did seem to have a bit of trouble with traffic in front. Bigger guys down in the minors compared to 16 to 20-year-olds in the WHL. So I think it'll be a work in progress for sure.
So, Greg, you've teased us with the report card coming out. What can you tell us? Who gets the The best grades and the worst.
Well, currently, like I'm still writing it, but I have it kind of all in my head. For the forward group has been overall disappointing because they're last in goals for in this North Division. So if you're last place with goals for, that the forwards are not contributing as much as they should. But with that being said, I thought Andrew Mangiapane has. He's got the second most goals on the team and just seems to be the most complete player right now. So he's getting high marks. Lindholm is the leading scorer right now, and though he hasn't scored as many goals as maybe people would like, he's still our leading goal point getter, and he plays in every situation. PK, power play. He plays against tough matchups with as our first line center. So he's getting good marks. Gaudreau had a hot start. He's kind of cooled off. His goals have really tailed off, and even his shot attempts have tailed off in the last couple of weeks. But so he's still up there for top forwards. And there's the bottom guys. I'm a bit surprised, but I've actually placed Matthew Tkachuk in as kind of a disappointment because he's doing okay. Like he's like third in scoring, but he's just not the same player. He kind of seems to be just a bit off this year, and that whole puck flipping incident, and he felt the team didn't have his back, and he just doesn't seem to be the same guy. He was the team's leading scorer last year, and of course Monahan had 2 goals, but he's underperforming. And Sam Bennett, he might be ready for a bounce back now under Sutter, but his performance to date has been bad. So that's kind of my hits and misses for forwards. And defense, basically, what I'm saying is I think we have a new first pairing. Like, I know it was always Gio was going to be the first pairing guy, but now I'm pretty sure that Tanev and Hanifin are our number 1 pairing, and they've just been the most effective. And if you look at advanced stats, Anderson and Gio have actually had not great numbers, and I know they play a lot of tough minutes, but they just haven't had the same kind of success as people would have hoped they'd have. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And I think we've talked a bit about goalies already. So I think Markstrom's going to be an A or a B minus or B plus, but he's been holding down the fort. But all in all, the team didn't have a very great overall grade after a 13-12-2 first half of the season. So there's a lot of room for improvement. And with Sutter, he can probably get that failing grade to A plus here in the second half and get us to the playoffs. That's my hope. So
all right,
that's what I'm working on.
Looking forward to that article, Greg. So thank you, gentlemen. We've run out of time, but great discussion as always. And thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next week with another edition of Flames Faceoff. But in the meantime, be sure to check out the hockeywriters.com, where we'll have tomorrow, as a matter of fact, the Flames weekly column, where you can catch up on all Flames action in the previous week. And it gives a look forward at the coming week. And be sure to check out all the great hockey content that we have at thehockeywriters.com. See you next week.